I'm Robin.
And I'm Julie.
We're two mamas who love inspiring healthy living.
After facing family health challenges and seeing how natural solutions transformed our lives, we are determined to help other mamas thrive, not just survive.
What if feeling awesome every day is possible for you and your family?
Come along with us on our natural journey.
Hi, I'm Robin.
And I'm Julie.
Welcome to our podcast,
Helping Mamas Thrive.
I did it right.
I'm so impressed.
I know, right? Today we have a special guest, and our topic is animal health with Dr. V.
Woo!
Dr. Stephanie Bahlman. Woo, 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 woo. I met Stephanie last year. Did I meet you at Quantum 1 or 2? 1.
Quantum 1, I think.
Okay, yeah. So it's been a year. It's been a year.
Yeah.
I can't even believe it.
That's cool.
I know. So she's our special guest. She's a chiropractor, and she just recently got certified or licensed in animal chiropractic. Well, I want to start with the beginning. So can you tell us what inspired you to become a chiropractor in the first place?
Yes. So I'll give you the condensed version just for, I guess, time's sake. I was in a totally different profession. It was still healthcare, but I was in a different profession. And I kept getting this message that I was going to go back to school. And I was like, I'm not going back to school. I'm not going. And I had been out of college, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I guess. And finally, okay, so this was happening for like a couple of years, and I kept ignoring it. And then one night I was asleep and I got woken up, and it was not like a, hey, get up. It was get up out of bed. I shot up out of bed, like literally shot up and was standing on my 2 feet in like one swoop. I'm not really sure how that happened, but I was standing there and I heard, turn around, you're standing on holy ground. And let me tell you, I was wide awake. And
Wow.
It was pretty cool. So
look at all my goosebumps. Oh my gosh.
It was crazy. So I was literally like, yes, sir. You know, it was like 3:00 in the morning or something, you know, and I was very awake after that. And I was told, I've been trying to tell you for 2 years and you're not paying attention.
Whoa.
This is what is about to happen. And the spirit told me, you're about to lose your job. You're going to apply for chiropractic school. You'll be accepted like the week after next. And in, X amount of time, this will happen. He said, tomorrow you're going to go to the school. So I was living in Dallas at the time. I graduated from the University of North Texas. I was working in healthcare. And so I went to Parker University, which was literally like a highway over and like 2 exits down from where I was working at the time. So I went there over my lunch and I walked in. I had never been to a chiropractor before. I wasn't even sure how to spell chiropractor. I did not know what I was about to get into. Okay. But
Right.
I knew what I was supposed to do. So I followed instructions and I went into the admissions office and I said, hi, I want to apply to go to school here. And they said, okay, let's give you a tour. And I said, I don't need a tour. I need the forms to fill out. And they said, okay, well, do you have an appointment? And I said, no. And they said, okay. They said, hang on just a second. And they made me wait for a minute. And then they took me back to this older gentleman. I can't remember what his name is. He was very nice. But he, was like, okay, well, what do you have as far as what have I been trained in? I said, well, I have a bachelor's of arts in journalism and public relations. And he was like, okay, so you're going to need some sciences. And I was like, yeah, I know. And so anyways, he gave me the paperwork. I had to get my transcripts and I had to get 3 references and I had to write a few essays. And that was all done by the end of the week. They even had the transcripts. Wow. And I'm telling you, it was appointed. Impressive. It was divinely appointed. And it happened exactly like God said it would. And so by the end of that week, all of my stuff was in. I knew that I would be going the week after. Then later in that second week, I did lose my job, but there was already another one lined up that worked really well with my schedule for school for a little bit. And then, yeah, it
Well,
literally just kinda took off.
let's pause you there for a second, because that was what a story was that.
It's
So,
crazy.
so I mean, had you ever gotten a download like that before? And like, how did you have the, the oomph to make those scary like moves, like go to the office?
Um, I think I'd had sort of like downloads before, but I didn't know what they were. In fact, my mom and I were just talking about this yesterday. So it's kind of interesting that you bring it up. It happens a lot more now because now I've learned to differentiate and to use discernment in what is what, and I've had a lot more practice. And I use that now in what I do, both with chiro, animal chiro, and obviously with quantum. It's huge. It helps huge in all of those areas. But I don't think that we're really, some people are taught, but I wasn't really taught those things. But that's how, for me, that's how God chooses to speak to me and shows me things that way and communicates with me in that way. So yeah, it had not, I think it had happened, but I didn't really know what it was, and so I tuned it out because I thought, I told my mom yesterday, I was like, I used to think I was like crazy, not like loony bin crazy, but like I didn't know what that was for lack of one, experience, and two, I just didn't know how to discern the information. But now I do know, and I can use it better.
Wow, that really has me thinking.
That's so cool.
Right?
I love it.
Wow,
I feel like that was one part of your question I answered. I can't remember what the second question was.
it was just like what inside you made you feel comfortable enough to like go to the
Oh,
office.
yeah. I don't want to say I felt like I was forced, because obviously that's not it, but it felt so in line with what I was supposed to do, and it felt so comfortable and so right that I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll go. There was
Cool.
I didn't question it. I wasn't like, I don't think I'm gonna do that. No, I knew. I mean, after that experience, I knew, like, I'm going. This is
That
what
is
I'm doing.
amazing. I love that story.
It was fun.
That's really cool. So, by the way, we did say that Dr. B, she owns her own practice in what city?
So I'm in San Angelo, Texas, which is kind of west central Texas.
Okay. And she provides different services, right? So can you share really quickly what services you provide, and then we'll go back to your journey.
Sure. So I'm a chiropractor, and I've been in practice for over 10 years. And I also do quantum nutrition, and I've been muscle testing for probably about 15 years. And I started learning to muscle test when I was in chiro school. And then last year, I became certified in animal chiropractic. So I do animal chiro, human chiro, and then I also do quantum nutrition. And then there's some other things we do in the office that are kind of related within those three realms of things.
Cool.
Like foot baths and saunas and things like that. But
we wish you lived here, because the pets that we see, that we muscle test, a lot of times they do need chiro, and they're not, we don't know any people that do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of our clients did end up finding someone, but she had to search really
Right.
a lot.
Is the one in DC?
yeah,
It's not common.
I don't know. We need to figure that out.
Yeah.
there's not a lot of animal chiros out there.
Right.
It's definitely growing. It's when I was in animal chiro last year in school for that, we talked a lot about how chiropractic back at the kind of the turn of the century, not to the 21st century, but to the 20th century, there was a lot. It was kind of the wild, wild west, because the AMA was they put a whole like smear campaign out. And you can go and check this out, right? It's like history now. And so you can go check it out. And they did that for a long time, for a very long time. I think it actually if I took a quiz, I might not get this question correct, but I think that it's really actually started in the 60s, but it really like officially started well before that. And so chiros were getting jailed and all kinds of stuff because they were saying, well, you're practicing medicine. And chiros were like, we're not practicing medicine, we're practicing chiropractic. And they went to jail, and in jail, they would adjust other inmates, they would adjust judges and attorneys and different things like that. So it's pretty interesting. But we talked a lot about how it's kind of the like wild, wild west of chiro, and animal chiro's sort of in that position right now. It's new. It's growing. It's people don't really know what to do with it. Does it fall under veterinary medicine? Does it fall under chiropractic? You know, how do we go about
defining it?
Yeah, defining this new
Interesting.
thing, this new idea. So
I know.
but there are people out there that do it. Look on the AVCA website. So it's the American Veterinary Chiropractic Association, and you'll be able to find certified animal chiros, whether they be vet or chiro in your area.
That's great, because we do need that.
That's great.
Yeah.
It would be better than me just watching on TikTok the guy who adjusts giraffes and all kinds of like crazy animals. Like, so comical. Like, oh my gosh, it's absolutely amazing.
So we haven't had a chiropractor on our show yet. We invited Dr. Palmer, but she's been so busy.
Yeah.
So can you just speak to, because a lot of people feel like chiropractic is really for only when you have an accident. Can you kind of like explain to people what chiropractic is?
Yeah. So that's a very big question. It's very broad. I know. So I'll try to kind of whittle it down a little bit. The philosophy of chiropractic is that, well, it's very broad and it's very deep. So we have this saying or this idea, this philosophy that the power that makes the body heals the body. And I think that's really true. And I think we use that a lot, especially through the holistic modalities that we all do. But chiropractic has been around, it dates back to like, I think AD time, BC, early AD, even BC. But what we know chiropractic as now in modern times actually dates back to the 1800s. And the man that sort of founded chiropractic was named D.D. Palmer. And he's y'all have Palmer West there, right? In Florida, you have Palmer West.
Yeah.
So that is sort of a not a transplant school, but Palmer, the original Palmer, is in Davenport, Iowa, which is where modern day chiropractic through D.D. Palmer started. And what happened was D.D. Palmer did a lot of different things. He like raised bees, and he was very much into energy and holistic healing and all kinds of things. And he adjusted a man named Harvey Lillard, who was the supposed like janitor of the building, and he couldn't hear. He was deaf. And so through the studies that Palmer did, he realized anatomically what was happening between the first cervical vertebrae and the brainstem. And so he adjusted that first cervical vertebrae, and it restored Lillard's hearing.
Wow.
So it's a pretty cool story. I think I haven't done this, but I would think pretty much I say this and this may not be true. I would think that if you looked up chiro schools, they should have that story there because it's so powerful. I don't know that they do, but you might look at the Palmer website because that is where chiropractic is coming from, is sort of out of that. And then there's several different schools. They all have a little bit different philosophy, but I went to Parker in Dallas, and that was founded by a man who I think he did go to Palmer, and his name was Jim Parker, Dr. Jim Parker. So no,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're fine.
I just was thinking, like, can you tell? So how can a chiropractic help people? Like, it can help the nervous system. It's not just like if you get in a car accident. Tell people how you help them.
So there's several different techniques that chiropractors can use. I'm going to circle back to your question. So some people
Yep.
think chiropractic is only the osseous adjustment, right? They see this is very popular on TikTok or whatever social media. People see like, oh, this chiro's like whack, whack, right? They
Yeah.
put them in this side posture and they wham and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of people think that that's only chiropractic, but there's so many different techniques. In fact, the research article I was reading earlier today was talking about how there's over 100 different techniques of chiro.
Whoa.
So you don't have to be adjusted only in that way. There's a lot of different ways that can make a adjustment or make changes to the body. And
Jonathan loves
so,
the wedges.
hmm?
My son, he loves the wedges.
Oh
That's how
yeah, does he do SOT
he
or
used to do chiropractic with Dr. Palmer when she was practicing. And so she
uh-huh?
did the wedges.
Yeah,
The wedges. And he goes, the wedges.
yeah.
Likes the activator too.
Yes. So those are much more gentle techniques than
Right.
the osseous, like, or people, they're like, if I'm not being cracked, then it's not moving. And that's not necessarily true. And it really comes down to the anatomy and how things are really put together and all of the structures and things like that. So to answer your question, we see, and I think a little bit chiropractors do this to themselves and I don't think it's intentional, but people tend to think because it's what's been marketed is that chiropractic is one for after a accident of some
Right.
kind, typically like a motor vehicle accident of some kind, or you're in pain. I think the pain thing gets used a lot because people can associate a pain scale, right? Oh, I don't have pain today, or my pain's at a 7 or whatever. So they can use pain as a way to um, differentiate between if something is getting better or worse. And so that I think that that's promoted a lot. But that's not really the premise of chiropractic. The premise of chiropractic is kind of going back to what I said earlier in that the power that made the body heals the body, right? So chiropractic, and when we were not on camera yet, we were really talking about how or we weren't being recorded yet. The single motor unit, which I know we may get into that a little bit later, but when you're adjusting something, you're only moving one specific bone. Okay, so chiropractic is high velocity and low amplitude. So it's usually very fast, but we're not using a long lever, right? Whereas I have people come in and they say, oh, yeah, my MD adjusted me or my DO adjusted me. And there are some things that do cross lines, I guess, of specialty. But what they don't use is the high velocity, low amplitude. So they don't use something very fast and a very short lever. They're using something that is much more long levered. So think about on TV when you see something that has like come out of joint, right? And you see, I don't know, I'm just thinking like Grey's Anatomy. They'll show like, I'm yanking on this thing, I'm yanking on an arm or a leg, and they're putting something back, but they're grabbing down here. They're not up here close to where the it's not a short lever is what I'm trying to say. It's a long lever. And so that's what makes chiropractic, or one of the things that makes chiropractic so specific, is that we're using a very distinct way of adjusting no matter the technique, right? So whether I'm using the activator, Robin, like you were talking about, or even if like with Jonathan, Dr. Palmer used to use the blocks or those wedges, that's still a very what we call HVLA adjustment, or even the osseous, right? Very HVLA. So you don't have to necessarily just have pain, right? We want to use the idea that the power that makes the body heals the body. And so we can look at it from a physiological standpoint is when the nervous system, which is housed by the brain and the spinal cord, is not functioning well, then cells don't function well, right? How often do we see that in quantum nutrition with what we do? And even when you guys are doing y'all do body code or belief code or both?
I do emotion code and I'm
Emotion code.
getting certified in body code. Yeah.
Okay, so emotion code. So you probably see some similar ideas to that through the emotion code, right? intracellular communication can be off. And one of the things that can affect that is the structural system or the nervous system, which that's a whole electrical system that has such a broad range of what it does and how it functions and the different things that it holds. You gonna pause me for a sec?
Oh, no. We're just changing the volume. You keep
Oh,
talking.
Okay. So that answer your question? I mean, it can be for
Yeah.
pain. Yes. It can be for post MVA. It can be for just because you want to do it, because you feel better, right? And the reason that you feel better is because, sorry, I've got weird things going on my computer. The reason that you feel better is because that releases certain brain waves, which is a certain frequency, right? And then that affects us down to the cellular level. So you can do it to function better, to move better. You can do it to digest your food better, right? Every single point in the spine, every single vertebrae, those nerves that come from that area talk to organ systems, talk to specific, like your heart, your lungs, your digestive system, your stomach, your, whatever. So when those are not in alignment, eventually we have organ dysfunction, right? Or we may have the opposite. We may have an organ dysfunction that's causing a subluxation to happen.
Right. I was listening to a podcast of a chiropractor, and he was saying that the chiropractic adjustments weren't holding, and it wasn't until he addressed the root cause, like his organ, long story short, it was an organ imbalance. And so once he addressed the organ imbalance, then his adjustments kept. Because when there are people that are like, oh, I don't believe in chiropractic, sometimes they say, well, chiropractic doesn't hold. Well, there's reasons, right? There's reasons that happens. That's cool. I love. We're big proponents of chiropractic, and I don't think that people really realize how amazing it is for proactive health and wellness. And it's our teens and our kids these days, they have a lot of regulation issues. They can't, their nervous systems are shot. And all the people with sports, all the kids with autism, all these people, they need chiropractic.
Yep.
Yeah. I 100%
That's where mine
agree.
goes. That is our doctor. We don't have any other. I mean, that is who we are go to. And for all my kids, I mean, they've all experienced it firsthand to have that the healing for their body, and they love it.
Yeah.
So
Even
Yeah.
was it during the hurricane that you need to tell the chiropractor story to Stephanie.
Oh, wait, about the
didn't you trip and then you didn't want to get chiropractic? Is that the story?
Yeah. Oh, when I got I don't know. Moms are always the last one to like take care of themselves. It's like if one of my kids needs to go or they try and go regularly, I'm like, absolutely, make the appointment. But when it comes to me, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
can I just go get by and
I muscle tested you and I was like, you need chiro.
Oh, right. Yeah. I needed chiro. And I was like, so I finally made the appointment. And
good.
Day when Robin was circling back to me like, did you make the appointment yet?
I mean, you used other tools, you used oils and substance, but you needed chiro.
I did.
Yeah.
So I love what you do. I love everything. And I'm so excited about the animals.
Me too. I'm like ready to go.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. Do you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to find out did you get a download to go to do the animal certification, or were you like, you just knew all along that was something that you would love to do?
I just knew. I would say I did. I'm trying to think back. I think I did have a download about the whole just quantum thing in general. So how I found out about quantum was I was actually had been doing training through a different company. And at the time is when Dr. Palmer and Dr. Dean were with that company as well. And so they were I can't remember their positions, but like CEO and I don't know, whatever. Doesn't really matter. So I had seen them. And I think I had, we were passing in the parking lot or something. I don't even think, I've never told Dr. Palmer this, so I should tell her, but
We'll
we
make
were
her
passing
listen
in
to
the
the
parking lot.
podcast.
You what?
We'll make her listen to the podcast.
Yeah, Dr. Palmer, you better make some time with all the time that you have, right? So I was passing by her, and I remember this so distinctly. They had their daughter with them. It was a bright sunny. I mean, I remember everything about the day, and I thought to myself, one of these days I'll be working with them. I didn't know who they. I mean, I knew who they were, but I didn't know them. We had just passed. I just passed them in the parking lot. But I remember thinking, like, I'm going to be working with them someday. And I think that was kind of the start of the whole quantum thing. So when she came out and said, hey, I'm doing quantum, I was like, I'm there. I'm doing it. Hands down. No questions. And then she was like, okay, I'm doing, quantum level 2 and 3. Okay, I'm there. Quantum level 3. Psh, there. QNT bets.
That's awesome. So just so everybody knows, Julie and I are certified in quantum 1, 2, and 3. And that's what Stephanie is talking about. And Stephanie, I remember the second night at dinner, you were quantuming the food you were eating. And I was like such a novice because that was the first time that I had started quantuming. And I remember you like looking at the menu and quantuming, what should I eat? I don't think that was your question, but I just meant like you were trying to choose like that.
Yeah. I remember where we ate, and like I remember where I was sitting in the room.
Uh-huh.
But I don't
you were in the middle,
that.
like and I remember somebody asking you, how are you doing that? And you were explaining to them. But now I get it because I test everything I eat. And my question is, will my body like it? Muscle testing is all about the question. So, will my body like this is usually the basic question I ask. Just like, can I tolerate this right this second? But there are tons of different questions you can ask as a practitioner for like a lot of my clients, even today, they were asking me like, can I eat oats or quinoa? Can you test me on that? And so muscle testing is really effective and getting to the root of everything.
So cool.
Yeah, I agree. It works so well.
So talk us through what led you to the animal chiropractic.
So it's kind of another crazy story. I've always been attracted to animals my whole life. So I could go I'll try not to make this a long story, but I'll tell you the story. I remember I used to ride the bus to school. So I'd ride the bus home. And I can remember being dropped off at the bus stop, getting out, and there was a house on a corner. And they had 3 or 4 Dobermans. And I would just walk up and hey, dogs. I didn't know the dogs' names, I'm like, hey, dogs, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I would just talk to these dogs and they would just come up and let me pet them. I would walk home. My mom would say I would leave the yard in my bare feet and walk 2 acres across to the neighbor's yard so that I could go talk to their dogs. And she's like, how you didn't get a sticker, I don't know. But you would go over there just so you could talk to their dogs. I would just bring stuff home all the time. And when I was a child, I wanted to be a vet. That was my dream. I wanted to do that. You too?
So with Julie too, yes.
Yes. So obviously I did not go to vet school, but I think God has brought me around in a different way to be able to work with animals. I have known my entire life that I wanted to work with animals. I just didn't. I thought vet school was the only way to do it. But through all of these other avenues, my eyes have been opened to other things. And when Dr. Palmer started talking about QNT pets, I was like, I already quantum my pet. Why would I not go? And so that's kind of how that happened. In relation to chiro school, for pets, I was with my parents. I've always wanted to do it, but the timing of things just wasn't happening yet. So I was with my parents and we were going to a business trip with my dad to Albuquerque. to see, well, it was just happening, but like the balloon fest was happening while his conference was going on. So he, like, my whole entire family went. So I rode with my parents up to Albuquerque, and we're in Roswell. Okay, we're getting gas, and we're at like a pump here, and that this pump over here, a man pulls up with a really nice truck and a really nice horse trailer, and there was probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 horses in this horse trailer. So the horse on the very end that was facing me, it was a black horse. And I don't know why I remember this so distinctly, but I remember looking at it and I thought, is it time to go to animal chiro? Like, is it time for me to train for that? And it was kind of one of these download things, right? It wasn't really me thinking it. It was just me saying it out loud. And I was looking at that horse because I had been talking to it, quantumly talking to this horse. And he started like doing his head up and down like this.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
yeah, you are going. And
I
so
love it.
I was like, did I just see? And I'm like, yeah, I did. So I get back in the car and I call over to Parker, and I called their continuing ed department, and I said, hi, I want to do, it's me. I want to do
There's that girl that doesn't need a tour.
yeah, I don't need a tour. I don't even know what I'm getting myself into, but this is what I'm doing. So she called, or I talked to her, and she's like, okay, well, she got my info. And then she said, well, I'll send you an email. We only accept 60 students to the program. So it starts in January. And I was like, okay, this was in October. And I was like, okay. So I hadn't heard from her because the email did something weird. And I emailed her, I don't know, like 2 weeks before the program. And I was like, hey, I never got the email. She was, well, it's starting in 2 weeks. Do you want to do it? We still have room. I was like, yes. So I just jumped in and started. And again, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but
I love it. This is how I make decisions too. This is when we started the podcast, Julie and I were meeting. We didn't have this office yet. We were meeting, and Julie had always wanted to do a podcast. And she had like books and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, we're just going to do a podcast. She's like, okay. I'm like, no, right now, today. She's like, what? I'm like,
no, I've been studying for 2 years on how to do it. And I have all these notes. I have like this whole book highlighted. And she's like, no, now. And I'm like,
yeah, okay, right now. And that's what we did. And there was birth, helping mamas thrive. That's it. That's how I do it.
That's perfect.
So that'll probably happen to you too. Just be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna start.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't need a tour. Don't need a tour. We'll figure it out. I'm okay. Like, if whoever's listening, if they do follow Dr. Dean and Dr. Palmer, the things don't have to be perfect. Like, you just start. Like Dr. Dean is always saying, just start. And so that, that's kind of, we'll figure it out. We'll get better. When you look at our old videos, with the curtain and the, we're not perfect.
Yeah, agreed. Just start.
So tell us.
That's tell us your new mantra. I don't need a tour. Just do it. Just go.
I'm totally love it. That is like, yeah.
You need a shirt. You need a shirt that says, I don't need a tour.
I'm gonna put it on our little thing.
It is so brilliant.
We have little things on our board, like this one that says, this healing stuff is not for weenies. We have like little notes to ourselves.
It's going up there. It's making the board.
Yeah, yep. I don't need a tour.
I love it, Stephanie. That's awesome. So tell us like what it was like for you doing going through animal chiropractic.
It was really intense. I know I've jokingly said a couple of times, like, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but really that's true. I mean, both times, all the time, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. But I didn't. And I think that it's good because I remember the very first day, the very first few minutes of class, Dr. McLeod said, hey, so this is a continuing education class or series of classes, but it's going to be more intense than any other continuing ed class that you've done. And boy, was she right. I remember sitting there thinking, well, I do nutrition stuff and it can get intense, right? Like eco's intense, going for quantum is intense. But this was literally going back to school. So I was running a practice I have my own patients to see and to take care of and do all the business owner things that business owners have to do. I have my own family. And then I was taking a 215-hour class, like,
Wow.
so
That's some continuing education right
yeah,
there. Wow.
it was. And we had to maintain, I think we had to maintain like a B average. So if you didn't make the cut, you were out of the program. So it was very intense, but it was also a lot of fun. And I learned tons of things. So in the class, there's, you're either a vet or you're a chiro to be able to take the class.
Okay.
So there was a lot of, cross learning, I think, which was good. There was, vets who maybe knew about chiro but didn't really know about chiro, so they learned about that. And then of course there's chiros who know about animals but they don't really know about animals. And so we were able to help each other learn the different components that are needed to make up animal chiro. And then also to know when something is within the scope of animal chiro and when it's not, because that's really important, right? Like, in human chiro, you don't want to adjust over a fracture. Okay, bad news, right? Same idea with an animal, but it might look different. It might present a little different. The animal may be communicating a little bit differently. And so just to learn some of those things and to go, okay, I think this needs to be referred out. Go see the vet, because maybe there's something here underlying that needs to be addressed. What if there is a fracture? What if what if their leg does need to be amputated? Hopefully not, but just that's kind of a far-fetched idea a little bit, but those situations do happen. And so I think it's important to know when is the right time to do what you know how to do, and when is the right time to go, this is not what I need to be doing. You need to go see this person. So I think that's really important.
I would think that your education with quantum would be really helpful, especially with animals in chiropractic. And you can ask the body, like you wouldn't be guessing. You actually ask the body, right?
Right.
So that puts you in an advantage versus other practitioners who don't know how to muscle test. Right.
Right. I do think the pendulum is kind of swinging a little bit. It's swinging faster in like our world through the holistic healthcare world. That pendulum is I think swinging a little faster, whereas in a more Western mindset, a more mechanistic mindset, I think it's a little slower to swing, but I think the start is there because there are people looking to, how do I help this animal be better? Because and it could be a multitude of different things. Maybe the person can't afford XYZ. Maybe like there's some vets that I work very closely with here in town, and we were talking about this the other day, is they like animal chiro because, or at least part of the reason they like it is because it provides their client and their patient, who's the animal, another avenue when they've exhausted all of their pain medications, right? There's only so many pain medications and it's not working. Okay, well, what can they do? Well, here's a different avenue, right? It's really great in that aspect, as well as I think being able to quantum test, which I think is hugely important, because you're right, Robin, we can test and know specifically what is the root cause of something. And it's quite often different than the animal needs this thing, right? That's symptom management quite often. And what we're able to do is look outside of symptom management and get to the root cause. And then as we fix that root, the symptoms begin to dissipate.
Love it. Can you tell? So when I was getting certified in emotion code, Julie and I went and did the session on a horse. And that horse, oh my gosh, that horse, just like the horse that shook his head at you, this horse like made eye contact with me. When you do emotion code, you ask the animal if you can test them. And that animal looked straight at me
Mhm.
and shook his head.
Mhm.
It was so amazing, and it was so intent on me.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
has that been your experience with horses?
Yes. And I ask this question. I ask it of my human patients, and then I also ask it of the animal patients because I think it's a super powerful question. And I always ask, is it okay if we insert whatever? So, is it okay if we adjust you? Are you okay if I touch here? And I try to be very mindful of that question and ask that because maybe there's something there innately that they say no to, that's something deeper, right? Maybe the body's not ready to handle that thing.
Right.
Maybe emotionally there's something there that needs to be handled. So I think that's such a powerful question. So I do ask my animals. In fact, I went out to um, some friends of mine, they're cattle ranchers, and they had a cow that had been down for quite some time. And usually, if a cow goes down within a couple of days, it will die because it's not made to be down, right? It's a herd animal, it's made to be up and moving. And when it gets down, that's pretty much the end of it.
Oh boy.
So, I went out there because I just couldn't stand it anymore. I kept thinking
Right.
about, I was like, I have to go. I have to go. So I text her and I said, hey, I'm coming out. I know where you live. You can't tell me no. I'm going to
Ah,
find this. And so the whole reason they had kept this cow is because um it had lost its heifer in the birthing process, and then another doggy had lost its mom. So they paired this doggy, or a baby calf, with, it was an orphan, so they paired it with this other one. The whole reason it was still alive was because it was being mom to this other little cow, and it was moving around and things like that. It was still feeding the doggy and things like that. So they had kept it alive. But my patient had come in and she was telling me about this story, and just something about it is kind of like a download moment. It was like, you need to go. You need to go check. And I asked her some questions about it, and she was like, no, it really seems like it wants to get up, but it can't. And I thought, okay. So I went out there, and I went up to the cow, and it was down. I mean, there's no way it could get up. It was, you could tell some places where it had tried to get up, but it just couldn't. So I went up to it and I said, hey cow, um, I'm here to help you. You know, they don't name their cows.
okay.
You know, you don't do that. So I just said, hey cow, I'm here to help you. Is it okay if I take a look and I make some adjustments to you? And it kind of the same thing, Robin. I got it's okay. Um, she didn't say okay, but you can tell because they just communicate differently, right?
Yeah.
Um, and
I
so
can
I
say
got
that.
it's okay, and I, did some palpating and did some feeling, and then I told the cow, I'm like, okay, this is out right here. I'm gonna make an adjustment here. Are you okay with that? And again, I could just tell the cow was like, please just help me. And so I started making adjustments. And then that cow, which had been down for over a month, got up. And now
Wow.
I know it's really cool. And now it's integrated back into its herd. And
Oh my gosh.
that's
I
a,
love it.
So cool. We
that's
totally have
essentially
chills
two
over here.
saved lives, because what if that, doggy wasn't going to make, I mean, they were bottle feeding it and stuff, but still, it needs its,
That's
it needs its
amazing.
mom. So it
Good
was really
I
job,
cool.
love
wow.
that.
That's so cool.
I love
And that
stories
was
like
less
that.
stress for the rancher, right? That he didn't have to put a cow down. That's
Yeah.
emotionally, that's very stressful.
That's such a great tool. And it's such a great gift
Yeah.
that we can listen to the body and figure out how to help it. Because
Mm-hmm.
all the bodies were made to heal, the humans and the animals.
Yep.
So
Right.
that is super amazing. So if you do test an animal and you ask it if you can test it, and the animal, and you feel like it's emotions, do you work on the emotions or do you sub that out to somebody else?
Excuse me. So I don't do emotion code. If it is emotional, I will typically ask if it is an emotion I can handle. I don't typically find out what the emotion is because there are so many, but
Mhm.
I do find out what can I use to assist in the healing of that. And so things like, fields of flowers from energetics, sometimes like Mintran, Minchecks from standard process, those will test. And if they test well, then I'll use it. But
Okay.
if I get that I can't do anything, then I take that to the next place.
Right. I would think that a lot of rescue, I mean, I would think that there's a lot of abuse with animals. Unfortunately, they're treated very poorly. And
Mm-hmm.
so I can't imagine that there isn't like a lot of emotional baggage with these animals, right?
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
like Hershey.
Oh, yeah.
Hershey's a rescue. Yeah.
Hershey, I did a lots of
Mhm.
emotion code on Hershey.
Yeah. He's got
Yeah.
a lot of healing to do.
It's crazy. Yeah. So what do you think, like what percent of what you do is animal chiropractic versus the other things that you do?
So the animal chiro is growing. I waited to really start pushing it until after I was certified by the ABCA. That was important to me to sit for that exam or those exams and get that certification. So I waited for that. So it's growing. In fact, we've been working on putting together a media kit to send out to vets in the area and send out some other info to places like, pet stores, groomers, different things like that, so that they're made aware, and that we can help them with any questions that they might have. I would say the two largest things are definitely chiro. Quantum is growing. Um, I don't know percentage wise. I wouldn't say that those two are 50-50, but they're getting close.
Cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
What is your favorite story? Like that the cow story is amazing. Do you have
Yeah.
another awesome story about an animal that you could share?
What's the smallest animal you've done?
The smallest animal I've
Yeah.
done is a cat.
Okay.
You could do
Awesome.
anything that has a spine, you can adjust. I haven't done birds. Some people really like to do birds. I've seen, actually, when I was in animal chiro, one of my professors there was also my professor when I was in chiropractic school. And so he's just a brilliant man, Dr. Gene Giggleman. And he's a vet. And during one of our classes, a bird flew into the window. So Parker has these huge windows around their classrooms. They're just covered in windows, and birds get confused, right? Because of the reflection.
Yeah.
And you can hear him. I mean, you don't forget that sound. It's like thunk.
Yeah.
And if you're quick enough, you can go out there and get it, and you can take it to Dr. Giggleman, and he'll adjust the bird. And so, you could save a bird's life, after it, if it doesn't break its neck, obviously.
Right.
So you can do really small animals. I've not done a bird. Some people really like adjusting chickens. I don't know that that's my thing. But I've adjusted cats, kittens, little kittens. I would say the biggest thing I've adjusted is probably the cow, maybe a horse. I've adjusted some horses that are really large. One of the sweetest things I've adjusted was a lamb.
Oh.
So sweet. Yeah. Really, really sweet
Oh
lamb.
my gosh. That's so if you're interested in this, Stephanie has an Instagram account. Is it under holistic? What is the name of your Instagram account?
Hang on.
Thrive.
It's Thrive Holistic _CN.
Right. So she posts videos of her adjusting horses the safe way. I saw the other video you showed of like the unsafe way.
Yes, there are people out there who are not certified, and they will adjust. And I think you have to be very careful with that because, I mean, Robin, you saw the post, and not to shame that man, because I know that he was doing what he thinks is well and good, and he's not out to hurt an animal, but he's not even in like the right plane to make an adjustment on anything. in that area. And so when you try to adjust something that is going against the way that it's supposed to move naturally, you're asking for big things. And I mean, just the whole scenario was just not good for him or the animal, or potentially the people that may be around that were filming, or trying to protect the horse, trying to keep it from moving away and different. So it was kind of a scary scenario for everybody involved. So I think it is important that the person that you are choosing is a professional in what they're doing.
Yeah. Has an animal ever said no to you?
No.
Animals
but
innately know.
they know. I would say animals are probably smarter than humans. Because they listen to themselves, right? We as humans, we talk ourselves out of things.
Right.
And animals, they don't do that. Like, they just know. And so an animal hasn't said no. Not that that won't happen. So far, it hasn't. I have gotten some pushback on we're done.
Right.
I did have a canine that she was done. And so I understood loud and clear that she was done. Just the energy was really intense. And I was like, okay, we're done. She's done. We're gonna end here. So I think it's important to be able to know how to communicate and listen to that communication.
Right. Is that how you protect yourself safety wise, like from not getting hurt from the animal? Is just tuning into them and asking them those questions?
I think that's part of it. Safety is a huge concern with animals because they can't say, ow, that hurts. They will bark, they will growl, they will kick, they will bite, they will scratch, they will do all of the above. They're going to move in ways that, they, I always warn the client or the owner of the animal, hey, your animal may behave in a way that you've never seen before. And it's not because they're trying to be bad, but because they're communicating with me that something is wrong or that they're done or whatever. And so we need to be mindful of that communication. But safety is a huge thing. With animals, we have to take a look at how do we hold the animal? How do we make sure that they're safe? And then the people around them are also safe. So there's certain holding techniques. There's, different things you have to be aware of. Horses in particular are flight animals. So if you're standing in front of a horse and he's going to get out of the way because he got spooked, there's a good possibility that you're going down too. So you just have to be really careful and be really cognizant, be very mindful, very present time, I think is important.
Gotcha. Those are great. I love it. All right. So we usually we have to wrap it up. So
sure.
If there's somebody out there with an animal, what kind of advice would you give them about health and wellness?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Well, can I ask a more specific question?
Yeah.
Mind?
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot happening with canines. There's such a huge increase in cancer. Their food is terrible. They're licking and biting their paws incessantly, mine in particular. But it's like it's everywhere, I feel like. If you and that's when we go to muscle testing and that kind of stuff. But have you heard of or seen chiropractic helping some of the animals that are dealing with increased inflammation, or they're biting and scratching and allergies?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to answer your question shortly, yes. So when animals are licking or chewing or biting, that is an indication that there could be a subluxation or a position in the spine that needs to be adjusted because it affects the nervous system. And so think about the way when I was talking with vets about this, the way that I was explaining it to them is a baby can't say, ow, this hurts, right? What are they going to do? They're going to put it in their mouth, right? And so they're going to pull at it, or they're going to tug or whatever. And so for an animal, dog specifically, the front of their face is such a huge part of their world. That's partly how they navigate, right? They don't use their hands to navigate like we do. They use their nose and their mouth. And so when something's wrong, they may use that to help navigate that whole issue. So having like lick granulomas where they've licked and licked and licked and licked and licked, that's a huge indication that there's a subluxation somewhere in the spine and it needs to be addressed. Biting, chewing, obviously those can be signs of parasites as well. But needing a chiro adjustment is definitely something. I do have a few animals that I do some quantum adjusting on, and that's one of the signs is this lady's dog bites the fire out of his foot, his right hind paw, and so that's the indicator. And so sometimes he'll come to me and say, hey, I need quantumly. He comes to me and says, hey, I need an adjustment. And then sometimes she calls and says, hey, can you do some quantum on my dog? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so, and it does, it works. It really works.
So what are you doing when you do quantum chiro? Are you sending frequencies?
Yes. I'm not really, I don't know the specific words to answer your question.
Okay.
I just know that, I know that it works. So I would say it's very specific to, when you're muscle testing, do you ever get the indication of what something is before you ever get there?
Yes.
Okay. Similar to that. So sometimes you already know, like, oh, and not that you're putting it there, but it's already come to you. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a difference in that. And I think it's kind of the same. So it has come to me that has said, it's this level. And then I go, oh, okay, well, we're going to release this level. In my mind, I picture that I'm adjusting it.
Right.
But yeah,
it's
all
an intention.
frequency-based.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. So you're not saying the actual healing frequency, but you're having the intention of making that adjustment.
That's so
Love
super
it.
cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I
So
can't
I'm
wait
not
for you to meet
saying,
Hershey.
yeah, I'm super excited. I'm super excited. Yeah. So Robin, further that, I'm not saying like, oh, I'm adjusting T9. I might think that in my head, but I can picture exactly what it is, what it looks like, what it feels like. And then I can send that intentional healing out. And as we know with quantum entanglement, there's going to be a change.
I love it. That is so cool. So how do people get a hold of you if they want to contact you?
So there's a couple of different ways. They can, I'm trying to think of the best way.
Well, we'll put it in the show notes. You want to just say your business name?
Yeah, we'll put it in this. Let's put it in the show notes. So they can go to our website, which is thriveholistic.net. And from there, they can click on like chiro or animal chiro, and that'll take them to lots of different info. They can follow us on social media. So we've got TikTok, we've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, all the things, X, Twitter, whatever it's called now. We've got that. My public relations, she's sitting right here, and I'm sure she's like, oh, geez.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
We've got all the things. Just follow them all. Or you can call our office. We'll put that number in the show notes so that people don't have to scribble that down. Yeah.
That's great. So if you are local to Stephanie or Dr. B, as she goes by, you can contact her. If you live in other places and don't want to do quantum chiropractic, you can go to the you said it was the Animal Vet and Chiro Association has a website.
Yes, it's the AVCA.
Right. And you can look up in your area if there's a chiropractor for your animal. So
Yes.
very cool. Because you definitely want somebody skilled, like she was saying. And like Julie and I, when we muscle test animals, chiro comes up all the time. Even when we were certified in quantum, there was a dog there, and I remember the dog was limping, and all the dog needed was chiro. It was really
chiro is amazing.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr. B.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
And if you guys like this podcast, please like it and share it. Do you have any?
That's it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. And if you want to support our show, give us a 5-star rating.
To learn more about our practice, visit athelivingtree.com.